Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle, Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success, and I empower professionals, especially veterans, to step into their most authentic personal brand to gain and attract lucrative opportunities. So what does that all mean? Well, as an image consultant, I help you with your ABCDs. That is your appearance, your behaviors, your communication skills, and your digital presence. Because once you master these areas, especially if you're entering into entrepreneurship, you pretty much get what you want. All right. And most importantly, what you deserve. So I help you to brand boldly. All right. So as you come into the show tonight, please make sure that you put in where you're streaming in and what your name is and all that good stuff so we can give you the shout out because y'all, I have a SLAYMAZING guest tonight with me. So you don't want to miss any of these conversations. I know we are competing with football and all the other things that are happening during this time of year. But, you can come in just for a short period of time and catch some of this conversation that we're going to have tonight. So we always start with the word slay. What does the word slay mean? That's right. It means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym that stands for Universal Life and Leadership Philosophies that really resonate with me, and hopefully they resonate with you too. And that is stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community, and knowing you are built to last. So we are going to be talking to a guest that is making a positive impact in this world by using the SLAY philosophies. Okay, so please make sure that you put in your name and where you're streaming in from so that way we can give you the shout out. All right. Okay, so without further ado, y'all, let me go ahead and introduce my guest for tonight. Her name is Kate McKinnon, and she is the former head of human resources at Playfly Sports, a leading sports media and marketing company. And there she led the people function through a fast-paced, high-growth phase, helping the company earn recognition as both a most loved workplace and one of the best employers in sports. Now, she has over 15 years of experience across diverse industry and has a proven track record of building and scaling HR departments, navigating complex organizational change, and creating programs that drive business outcomes while enhancing employee engagement. Now, Kate is leading her own consulting practice, and it is Kate McKinnon HR Solutions, focused on empowering organizations by prioritizing their most valuable asset, which are people. Now, she has interviewed and hired thousands of candidates and built high-performing human resource, talent acquisition, and training development teams. She brings both strategic insight and real-world experience to every engagement, always guided by one belief: when people thrive, organizations succeed. So please put your hands together. Big round of applause for my girl. Okay, Kate. So let me bring her onto the stage here. Hey, Kate.
Hello. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Listen, all right. Of course, you're going to get a wonderful introduction because after our conversation, I was like, where have you been? I mean, we had a really great conversation. I was like, we need to continue this conversation on the show.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for your time and for saying yes to being a guest on the show tonight.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. My former employer might be a little bit upset that I am forgoing football for this, but I wouldn't want to spend it with anyone else.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, because your sports background and all that things, right? I mean, I'm telling you, my husband's got his eyes glued to the TV right now. And so it's like, okay, football season we know is upon us and all the things, but the show must continue to go on. So Kate, I want to, just kind of lay this out for our guests so they can get a better understanding of who you are and kind of, your journey into what you're doing right now. So can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are, where you're at, and Well, what got you into the sports? Because I know that's where your background was originally.
Yeah. So I live right in between Philadelphia and New York. So I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan. We have a bye week this week, which is good. Some good rest. But started my career in the nonprofit space, working with adolescents with behavioral and psych disorders, transitioned into the sales landscape where I really became very passionate about leadership development and how we are empowering and training our leaders prior to them taking on leadership positions. Transitioned that into an HR career. So worked largely in the healthcare space, but did make the transition to sports. And for those that have worked a very long time trying to get into the sports space, I was very fortunate. I kind of lucked into it. But it was a wonderful opportunity for me to bring some unique thought processes to sports and really join at the start of what was really a pretty cool entrepreneurial sports media marketing company. And left at the end of about a year ago, actually, to start my own business in January.
Wow. Well, congratulations on starting your new business. But I love your journey because, first of all, it's your journey, right? And I love and appreciate everybody's path on how they got to where they're at. And you first started in the nonprofit space, if you will, which I know there are a lot of nonprofits doing a lot of great work, and getting kind of that foundation of, what does business kind of look like, because nonprofits are business entities, if you will.
Yeah.
And then, doing it for a cause for, young people. And so I know that's probably had a little bit to do with the, and I'm just making assumptions, but, based on what I'm hearing, is the leadership development, right? So, would you say that you got many lessons learned or some things that you found out when you were in the nonprofit space that you are using today in your business?
Oh my gosh, I learned so much from my time in the nonprofit space. I think working with kids who don't, candidly have a lot, right? They're brought into this organization because they are from oftentimes disadvantaged backgrounds. They have behavioral problems, dual diagnoses. Children were who I worked with,
Mm,
and so really understanding that leadership and development starts at such a young age, and having people around you that are lifting you up and providing some structure and care is just so critical and essential for your entire path. And I would say, during my time there, I really learned a lot of grit, like how to
mhm,
really push through difficult situations, how to make quick, difficult decisions,
mm,
where the impact is really high,
yeah.
and you don't have a lot of time to weigh everything. And so that I've taken with me throughout my entire career.
Yeah. You're probably one of a handful of people that I've had on the show that refer to the word grit. And, so I want us to spend a little bit of time on that because I think that's one of the leadership characteristics or traits that when or if you do have that, you're able to push through past so much more, and I'm only speaking this because of my background and being in the military for so long. And there was a lot of that mindset of I've got to push through these very challenging, difficult, maybe a barrier or a situation or whatnot. So, like when you use the word grit, like what what is your picture, if you will, from where you derive your grit from?
I think grit is something that it really is developed. I don't know that you're born with grit. I think, you have to learn really hard lessons. You have to get knocked down quite a few times to be able to learn that, up until this point, I've been able to get through everything that's been thrown my way so far. And so whatever I'm facing, chances are pretty high that I'm going to be able to power through it as well. I think that grit gets there are different types of people that say like, oh, just have some grit, just push through it. And I don't necessarily believe that that's the real meaning of grit. I think it's leaning into the fact that you can be successful, you can make hard things happen. There are very few obstacles that you can't overcome or work around or get creative to figure out how to push through. So I was listening to somebody the other day who said, grit plus community are the keys to resilience. And I do think that that does have a lot to do with it, especially if you look at military, it's the community that really helps you see past those obstacles. And I look at that the same way with the community that I've built.
Yeah, I agree. Regardless of whether or not your community is, somewhat dysfunctional, because I say that's a very dysfunctionality, going on. But, we knew there was a mission. We knew that there was a task that we needed to complete. But we also knew that we needed to have like certain amount of options, like if this doesn't work, let's try this. If this doesn't work, let's try this kind of approach. But I love the fact that you said, sometimes people use the grit in a different way, meaning you just got to really like barrel through sometimes and go hard in the paint. And in reality, I think it's, the mindset around how you pursue or to approach something that's difficult. And knowing that you will, find yourself getting knocked down. How do you build yourself back up to get back after it again? So I really do appreciate you sharing that with us. And then you were talking through, your time at the Playfly Sports, and that sports background and being able to get into that industry. So I could say I'm like an amateur athlete. Okay. I work out every day, but my training and workouts is different than an athlete, like a true athlete's workout and training, right? So in that, we're still like, I just want to pull the thread just a little bit more about the leadership aspect. So you learn some leadership lessons, if you will, through nonprofit. Like, what did you learn in the sports community?
Oh my gosh. I love working with the sports community. It's really my favorite place to be, candidly. I think one of the misconceptions I had when I started my journey in the sports space was that, throughout my career, everybody always wanted to hire, former athletes, former coaches, former team players, for former military, like people that really embodied this collaboration and competitive nature. And I thought, wow, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to walk into a company that has all people like this. And that brings its own set of challenges, let me tell you. So that was something that I think was really surprising when I came into the sports industry, and I really had to adjust pretty quickly. You are working with really, really determined, competitive, intrinsically and extrinsically competitive with themselves, competitive with one another. The stakes are very high in sports for a million reasons, but with a career in sports, it's hard to hold on to, because anybody can step up and take your job, right? So many people want to get into the sports space. And so constantly being on top of your game, constantly learning, constantly getting better is just a tenet of being in the sports landscape. And working with a lot of former athletes, working with veterans, they really hold a lot of commonalities that is just so incredibly interesting to me. And I just find just so much joy working with those populations. I just absolutely, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, there is a correlation in between the military and, athletes. I didn't put two and two together until I was much more senior in my career. And, like the competition factor, it just starts rising like every year, knowing that the age was always in playing into the factor game of okay, like you got to run 1.5 miles, you got to do push-ups and sit-ups, but you're not in your 20s anymore. All right. So having to learn all the strategies to keep your body primed to make sure you can perform from a physical aspect, I felt like that was one of the biggest, I would say, like, it's a lifestyle, like having to learn how to manage that, so I can only imagine when it's literally that is your career, is to perform and play at a very high level all day every day you
Yeah,
know
I can't imagine it. I'm very fortunate that HR does not have the same type of qualifications, but I can't even fathom it.
yeah.
Really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, there is a certain mindset, I think, that comes with that too. So, what are your thoughts on, mental capacities or mental states? Like in the world today, I can kind of see this shift happening, if you will. Like there's a lot of happening at one time. There's a lot of things that people are processing and trying to make sense of. So how do you maintain, I guess, your ability to show up like you do? Like what type of mindset do you have?
Oh boy. I think it takes work. I think,
Mm,
to show up as your best self, it takes a lot of work. I am a thinker, when I am stressed, I need to process, I need to take a step back. And people that I love and people that love me know that about me, that usually, my first response is not the response. It's usually give me a night to sleep on it and I'll be able to come back in a much more clear headed state.
right.
And I think that in a time where we're just being bombarded with information, just constantly information we want, information we certainly don't want, it's just nonstop. And I think that, people are really struggling with that input, then their personal lives, then their work selves, and all of these things colliding. You can't separate it anymore. And so, I personally am a big proponent of separating yourself a bit to
Mm,
regroup, recompose, and be able to come back as your best self.
yeah.
I think over the years and with age comes a lot of wonderful things.
Mhm.
But, I am okay saying, "Hey, listen, like, it's just not the day for me. Like, it's just not a good day, or I'm really feeling overwhelmed and I need to take a step back." And that has come with age, right?
Yeah.
Age and saying, like, I know what I need to come back as my best self. And so that's been really helpful for me. But everybody's different, and
Yeah.
that's the challenge with leading teams and leadership in general, is recognizing that everybody that's sort of in your care comes from a different perspective, has different stresses, has different pressure, and being able to consider all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, only because I've been in that space and had to lead a lot of different teams, and be in so many different places and all the things, right? People are hard.
Yeah.
People, we are hard, to figure out or to get a sense of, because so many factors are being played in. It's like environmental changes, or it could be something socially happened, or maybe it's you're working on a project, and you're quite frustrated and you're not quite sure how to you know move through that, your family, and all the things that come with that. So, and everyone has their things,
Mhm.
right? And so you're trying to make sure that all the people are able to perform and to, build or complete whatever with all these things, So
Mhm.
it's very challenging, but I do know, like, you have on your title Chief People Officer, which I absolutely love. So it's like the focus is on people. And so I know that so many times people will get into leadership roles or positions or whatnot, and they're not ready. I've seen it time and time again where they are just struggling, all right, to figure out how to manage or lead people. And so, what have you found? Because we could talk about this for on and on and on, but you're focusing and zeroing on people. So, what are kind of some of your philosophies, if you will?
Well, to your first question around leadership and people coming into leadership roles and not being prepared or not having the training or maybe not being in a position where they should be considered a leader at all, I don't necessarily fault the people for that. I fault leadership for that. I
Mm,
believe that leadership is not the path for everyone. And what has happened organizationally is that you have a great performer, take a seller, you have a great salesperson, they hit their goals, they hit their budget, they're a superstar. So you say, okay, you need more responsibility. Or maybe they say, I want more money or I want more responsibility. And the next step is, okay, now you're going to manage a team. Well, that often fails because the skills that get you to be a top seller aren't necessarily the same skills that you need to manage a team of sellers. Now you're getting work done through others as opposed to just focusing on yourself. And so if companies don't provide additional training and development to help recognize that maybe this person should be a leader, needs to develop some skills so that we can put them in the best position for success, or this person clearly should not be a leader, we're going to create individual contributor pathways to allow them to elevate in the organization where leadership doesn't have to be the next
mm,
logical step.
yeah.
And so I think you find that happening all the time. And it's really due to lack of ability for training, lack of succession planning, lack of performance management, all of those things. And then I really believe too that, your organizational culture is only as strong as the worst behavior you're willing to tolerate. So if
Hmm.
you allow a leader to ride over their team or like really, really not perform well from a leadership perspective, even if the numbers are there, then
Hmm.
that provides that sort of expectation for the rest of the organization. So, I believe my people philosophy is to focus on the people.
Yeah.
It's really very, very simple. I've never been a part of an organization that hasn't put time, energy, resources, money, people in place to focus on the people that has not been successful,
Yeah.
because the people is what makes your company successful. So why would you not want to put resources towards your biggest expense?
Yeah. Yeah, you are absolutely right. Like I'm on your side, team chief people officer, all day long. However, when you made the point of, you know, there's a path for leaders, right?
Mhm.
And to develop and grow them so that they can become better leaders. And then there's also a path for, and you describe it as individual contributors that can go on this other path and do well on that
Mhm.
path as well, but they're not necessarily in the leadership roles or titles or whatnot. Unfortunately, in the military, that is not a thing.
Right.
Okay. In the military, it is virtually by, you know, here's a checklist. All right. Here are the things that you need to do. All right. To get to the next whatever. All
Mhm.
right. Here's to the next rank, to the next, job or whatnot. And it becomes to the point in some cases, I wouldn't say all the time, but in some cases where you have a leader who was developed too early or
Mhm.
not, or excuse me, underdeveloped and not, and being promoted too early. Um, Being in the role and not understanding the responsibilities and the you know uh what I wouldn't even say, like the understanding of what this role is and how it plays a factor along with all the other teams and the and in the organization. It it becomes to be like, well, if they can do it, then I can do it too, right? It's like I see them doing it and they're not doing well at it. I can do that and I can get away with it, right?
Mhm.
And I do believe that it is a leadership, like the senior leaders of the organization, they owe it to the people to make sure that they are ready and that they are able, they're competent, they're capable of being in their role, and they have an understanding what they're getting themselves into. So it is a myriad of things. There's a lot of factors that play into it, as you know. But sometimes people have to self-proclaim, like, I need more, training. I need more support. I'm not quite sure. But sometimes we don't put our hands up and say, you know what, I'm not good. All right. So that becomes somewhat of a hard, way to kind of view leadership and how it looks, So there's a lot that goes into it.
And in the military, I mean, it's life or death. I mean, it's
Oh,
very, very different than
oh,
being in a corporate,
oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah. I mean, when you say that, we go all the way to the deployments. I've been on several deployments where literally, the person that's in the lead, you could tell what it's going to happen and how things are going to unfold just by the leader, whoever has been appointed, and you don't get to pick. All right. So that too comes into play. So as you kind of shifted from being in the sports community, if you will, and so I'm just so curious because, when you start a business, right? Like, I'm always curious as to the why. Okay. Because we know that entrepreneurship is not easy. And this thing that we are doing right now, we are like sometimes flying on the seat of our pants dress. We were talking about it earlier today.
All the time.
All the time. So
Yeah.
what made you start or launch Kate McKinnon HR Solutions?
I think there were a lot of things that sort of just all came together at the right time. I don't think that, and people will say, like, there's never a good time to start your own business. Like, you just have to do it. And I was always like, well, there has to be a good time. And that's very true. I really think it is such a leap of faith, and you have to have a tremendous amount of support around you in order to do it. So I definitely don't discount that. I had always envisioned at some point in my life being responsible for my own career, my own trajectory, my own, everything essentially. I didn't really know what that would look like, but that was always very intriguing to me. I had always wanted to write a book. I had a list. I've always had a list of like things I'd like to do. And I kind of go and check them off occasionally. And those had always been things on my list. And so, as I was looking at my time at Playfly Sports, we had grown so quickly. It was truly a labor of love. But with that, I'm a self-admitted victim of complete burnout. I mean, I was so invested in every single person we brought into the organization, from 200 employees to over 1,000 employees. Built a team of 13, just was involved in so many things that I couldn't step away. I didn't feel like I could take a break. I wasn't able to have any time. And that was self-imposed. But, I think I got to a point where at the end of last year, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give a couple of months runway, help with this transition. And I'm going to jump off and do my own thing at the beginning of the year. It was sort of a very lofty New Year's resolution, I guess.
Oh.
And, my goal really was not to do anything different than what I was doing before. It was to pour into this and to give of myself, but to give of myself to my own thing that I had control over. And that was, and has been, really incredibly rewarding. I mean, all of the things too, right? Scary and stressful, and I never know what I'm doing, and I make mistakes all the time, but I'm a firm believer of being brave enough to suck at something new. And I think this year has sort of been that for me. So
Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's so many people who are experiencing burnout as we speak, right? So what are some of the signs that you knew you were burnt out?
Oh my gosh. I think one of the biggest signs was that everybody around me knew that I was done about a year before I was done.
Really?
Yes, yes. I had a lot of people that said like, you're really struggling. Like you don't even know how much you're struggling. And I you bring in that grit, right? Like I just am a push through kind of person. And, I think having some weeks at, 70, 80 hours and just to never turn off. I just was unable to turn off. And I started really myself feeling just this inability to get ahead of anything. And that was, I think, the
Mm.
biggest feeling for me, that I wasn't able to be strategic in the way that I thought I was most impactful. I just felt like I was firefighting all the time. And just holding things together, my personal life included, my professional life, my personal life. I felt like I was this sort of glue for everybody, and it was just becoming completely like unraveled. And it was almost a non-decision for me. It was almost like I knew that I had to leave, because I wasn't going to be able to pull myself back, and be less involved because of how committed I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do get into some self-destructive, if you will, uh, some habits, or even just a routine of I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go hard. And then, when you were saying that everyone else was saying, hey, you were done a year ago, and you were like, okay. And it's like, no, I'll just keep going, right?
Mhm.
I think that it holds true for a lot of us. We can see people in our teams or in our communities that are really not doing well. And doing something that you love, like even going through the motions of being an entrepreneur, it can get so overwhelming at times, but it's the underbelly of this is something that I absolutely love to do and I enjoy it.
Mhm.
So it's not, necessarily turning into the burnout. I'd say for what I've been experiencing, it's been more of this self discovery, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. So much.
It's things that I really didn't even think about when I was in my career that I'm really looking at and being very reflective,
Mhm.
because I'm questioning what I am doing or what I have been doing. And some of the things I've had to like rebuild my self-trust in. Like you're good. You can do this. Like this is yes, it's hard, but you have the skill set to be able to push through this. So, I don't know if you're experiencing any self-reflection or,
Yes. So
deep
much.
deep thoughts or anything like that. Like,
Yeah. And a deprogramming, right? Like
oh yeah.
that was a big part of the first couple of months, was this like constant, on the phone, constantly checking, just this worry that I was going to get a phone call that things were falling apart in some capacity, that I was going to have to, quickly solve. And, letting go of that, I think there were a lot of feelings of like, well, gosh, what am I doing? Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not anything to anybody. I'm just sort of like, now I'm just going to do my own thing and be selfish here. It was probably the most selfish decision I've ever made, was to
Yeah.
leave and to go out on my own.
Yeah.
But I've fallen back into old habits, and I'm pretty vocal about that, even on LinkedIn, saying like, hey, I just realized I scheduled 10 calls for Monday. Like, why am I doing that to myself? I don't have to do that now. Like, and so I definitely fall back into those habits,
Yeah.
but my ability to be creative and to be innovative and to just do the things I want to do, and
Yeah.
to live sort of on my own terms. If I don't want to take a client, I don't take a client. It's pretty nice.
It is pretty
Yeah.
nice. I feel you when you're talking about deprogramming. We have before we move on there, I did want to acknowledge Chevy that she's here. Hey, Chevy, good evening to
Oh,
you as well, and thank you for showing up live here on the show. I know you got a lot going on. She's also an Air Force veteran, so
thank you for your service.
yes, love that she's here. Um, but yeah, like deprogramming is, I think I'm still battling with a lot of things, especially when you're talking about like the schedule, like managing the schedule. And sometimes we think that we have to be doing all the things all the time. And I still find myself getting into that cycle of let me rack and stack, okay, and there's no space in between, and I'm just trying to run myself into the ground, and I kind of looked at my calendar for this week, and I said, I'm just going to take a full day and I'm not having anything on the calendar, okay, whereas before that was not happening. I was always had things on the calendar. Didn't matter if there wasn't anything on the calendar for the day. By the time 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock rolled around, there was probably like 10 things on there. So it's like, trying. What I really think though, Kate, I think that anyone who is looking to do something different with their life should just try entrepreneurship for at least a year. I'm just
Oh,
saying.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just
Yeah.
try it, because the benefits of you being your own boss, if you will, it comes with a lot of other things that really have opened my eyes to so much more. I was like,
Yes.
this world out here is bigger than I thought it was. So, what have you kind of experienced through that?
I think the biggest thing for me is, well, two things. One, I was blown away at how many people, without me asking, because I never would, right? Without me asking for help from anybody, so many people just came out of the woodwork. How can I help you? How can I help you how can I make this successful for you? Just the amount of outpouring of support was insane. I
Yeah.
could not even wrap my head around that. And then the other thing is, in a world where there's just so much noise, right? We talked about that sort of in the beginning of our call. You can feel like there are just everybody's against each other, right? Like there's just this constant fighting. And what I would say is that I have had so many conversations. I probably have had at a minimum 500 to 700 conversations since I started this. And I have loved every single conversation. There is not one person that I have not had a great conversation with that is not doing incredible things. And I just am so amazed at how many good people are out there, which I feel like I knew, but I just sometimes it takes like a big leap of faith to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to see us win. You know what I mean? And and in this next season we get to decide who these people are, to us, and how they will help support us. I mean, and as before, we did not. I know I did not have that option. There was everybody was on the team. Whoever got pointed to it, you had to figure it out. And now, I choose to be in rooms with people who are looking to be successful as an entrepreneur. So that comes with a different way of how they show up. I mean, just the way it is. And so learning and observing and just really being in those types of environments has really stretched my whole imagination of how entrepreneurship could be.
Yes. I would say the biggest challenge is not getting so excited about every conversation and
Oh
thinking like,
yeah.
oh, I could do this and I could do
Yeah.
this. Like it's trying to stay sort of focused. That has been a challenge, but a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I agree. So, okay, so you got into um entrepreneurship and you now have your business. You've been in your business for 1-2 years,
Almost a year.
almost
A
a
year in
year.
January.
So if I was a new entrepreneur starting out, what advice would you give me? Can you give me like, your top 5?
Top 5. Number 1, always give yourself grace.
Mm.
Just go easy on yourself. You're doing something you haven't done before. You have no idea what you're doing. You're going to get a lot of advice and opinions. Take some, leave some, but give yourself grace more than anything. One piece of advice that I got in 95% of the conversations I had early on was that I needed to be very, very clear and focused on one thing so that I had consistent messaging. And I chose not to take that advice. I am very focused in 2 separate areas, but I have had people reach out to me about projects that I'm interested in. And initially I was thinking, oh, well, I can't do that because I need to stay focused. And it was a switch that I had where I just thought, you know what? I don't have to do that. I can do whatever I want. Like, what am I doing? So I've just started, I'll take calls from people that are just interesting. And it's led me into a lot of relationships and business opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise thought if I was very, very sort of like blinders on.
Yeah.
So that was a piece of advice that I chose not to take. Maybe not for everybody, but that was something that worked for me. I think third would be brave enough to suck at something new. That's a quote that I have in my mind on a regular basis. I don't know what I'm doing with anything. I didn't know what I was doing with setting up a business entity or creating a website or pricing option. Like I had no clue. But you'll figure it out, right? ChatGPT is a wonderful thing. You can use that for a lot and you'll figure it out. I would say lean on people.
Yeah.
Connect with other entrepreneurs, talk to other people that are experiencing the same thing. It can feel, I hear from a lot of people that it's very lonely being an entrepreneur, and I haven't felt that. I've been very fortunate. And I think it's because I talk to so many people every day. And so I don't ever feel alone. I feel like I have an arsenal of people I could reach out to that can reach out to me. And then I would say, don't say no to anything. Like if people have introductions, if people want to make an introduction for you, just say yes, thank you, and have the conversation. You never know where something will lead. So those are the top 5 just off the top of my head that I can think of.
Yeah, those are amazing because I agree. I mean, especially for the one about, giving yourself grace and really like just, this is something new. You have never done it before. So like, anything that, takes a little bit of learning because I think it's a steep learning curve if you've never been an entrepreneur before. That you do need to like give yourself permission to be like, you know what? It's okay. Like, yeah, okay, I'm going to screw it up or I'm going to lose money here or, I wasn't really thinking of this all the way through. And no one is telling me, I'm just trying to figure it out, and you do get some people who take on entrepreneurship and they get all the things handed to them, like they have all the structure, they have all the, the team that all they got to do is just, start to, take on stuff, right? But they're already in place. We're building something from literally the ground up, okay? And so it takes time to do that because like anything, it's not built overnight. And, so I'm with you. I'm like, I love the journey. I've been embracing it. And it has led me into opportunities that I would not think that I would ever, ever, ever get an opportunity to see or to be a part of. And I think that's part of what we are doing too, is just really creating this life you design about making high impact, having the influence, if you will, in the space that we're in. And so we can make, this world into a better place. I don't know. That's all I think about is like, how can I just make a difference in the world? All right. And doing it in such a way where I could be proud my family can be proud of what I'm actually doing, which
I love
sometimes I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I love that. But and the other thing too, and you describe it really well, is like there are days where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like all these things are happening and they're wonderful. And then the next day it could be like, oh, okay, all of those fell through and now nothing is happening. And so there's like a very real I think journey to get to a steady state. And I
Yeah.
don't know that that ever happens. Like it's a
Yeah.
risky business to, start your own thing. And so I think figuring that out, that like the low points aren't forever and the high points aren't forever either.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're, giving yourself grace in the low times and also being humble in the high times. And then, hopefully getting to more of a steady state at some
Yeah,
point.
I love that. Especially like how do you respond or how do you live in the low point, And so I'll give you a couple, and maybe you have a couple that you do as well. Like for me, like so Chevy, who's on here, she's my accountability partner, which we talk on a messenger every day. We're just because it's just quick and easy. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? What are you doing in your business? And then it ends up to being this whole talk about the family and, all the things. But then it allows us to vent and to share, celebrate our wins. And then even in the low points, like really talk to one another about, hey, tomorrow will be a better day. Like think about something else that you can, pursue. And then the other thing that I think is important. It's kind of this unique way that I have about, I don't stay in the dark. Okay. And there's a lot of different reasons why I'm always like the energized bunny when it comes to anything, because I have all this stuff that I have on my mind. I'm like, yes, let's just go and do that. But there are days when I'm like really, really down in the dumps. And what I've taught myself is, okay, you got to open up the curtains. Okay. All curtains are open. Let the light shine in here. We are not listening and we are not watching anything that's sad or depressing or anything like that. Like got to get you back into that vibe of these are days they come.
Yeah.
They're going to come. Right. But you can't stay in that low point forever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Especially as an entrepreneur, because this is where people stop. They'll just stop and say, you know what, this isn't for me. It's too hard.
It is. And I think, you hear about entrepreneurs hitting that wall where they do stop. And I think about like, okay, this is that point. This is the point where most people stop. So I'm going to push through because I'm not going to be a person that's going to stop. Right. And, I'm stubborn, so that comes easily to me, but you, oh yeah, like there's no quit. Like I have no quit in me, which is a good thing, right? Most of the time, but the light. I'm a huge like even at night, like the windows are open. I am a huge natural light person. I will go outside. I will take a walk. I will also. I've learned to give myself permission to be sad sometimes. Like sometimes things just suck, and you have to be able to like sit with that. But then like sleep it off, next day up and moving again. And so it's just this like move forward. Even if you're not at your best, just keep going.
Yeah. Well, I think that, a lot of times, again, it's just by experience, right? Sometimes this is by life that has been lived.
Yes.
And, it's like, I've seen some really bad days. I've been through some very tough times.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This right here with somebody not, following through or like something, just it didn't pan out, and it's like, oh, okay, what now? All right. Yeah. Be upset, be sad, be frustrated, and all those things. But there are more opportunities around the corner. It's that's the way I think about it, because entrepreneurship is really about finding ways to generate, okay, yes, we generating income, but also generating that mindset of this is what happens. This is part of entrepreneurship. Like, okay, here we are. Now, you did talk about a book.
Yes.
So is the book done?
No. Nope. Not yet.
So tell me about the book journey.
The book journey's been an interesting one. So I went a little rogue with my book journey. I had an idea, and I have wanted to do it for a long time, and I've kind of kept sort of in my iPhone, like just writing notes, right? And this has been for years. And so what I did was I put an outline together. I submitted it to multiple publishers with the first couple of chapters of the book done. And I said, this is what I'm doing. Are you interested? Which I don't know if that's like a thing, but they all wanted it, which was amazing. So I actually have a publisher, which I'm super excited about. And we had our first editing meeting. So we are moving forward. My hope is that within a year it will be done and out. But it's really around, and it could be used for any transitioning professional, but new grads coming out of school, how they are entering the workplace. So from a HR professional who has truly seen it all, how do you interview? How do you find a job? How do you impress during your interview? How do you tell your consistent story? How are you successful in the first 90 days in the workplace? And then how do you work with different generations? So why people my age and older, are saying things like, well, they just don't want to work, or they just care about work-life balance, all of the things that happen from generation to generation when they're talking about the upcoming generation. But why, what is that rooted in? So that they can understand how to change their communication style. What are the things that are important to your boss? What are the ways that you can be an indispensable member of the team? So it's really kind of like a how-to with some workbooks and things like that. So
I love that, because I'm telling you, we need more of this. We need to be talking more about all of this. Okay. Because so I have a 15-year-old. Okay. So he's going to be going into college here, a couple of years or so. But everything has changed, right? We're living in a multi-generational world right now. And what we experienced when we were growing up and when we went into the workforce is way different than my son, who will be going in a couple of years. And that transition can be a little bit more difficult. And let's not even add on the pandemic that has caused, another disruption, if you will, of understanding what transition into, working with other people look like.
Oh, and it's really, the premise is, since the pandemic, all of these things have changed. I mean, you took away students in college their opportunity to intern, their opportunity to work. They were communicating only over Zoom or Teams or whatever the case was. So you already have these generations where they've been raised with social media. They've been raised with this instant gratification mindset. Now you have a pandemic, the world shuts down. There is a real gap. And my goal is really to help people figure out how to close that a bit. And I think it comes from students understanding the whys behind some of the feelings that they're getting in the workplace. And I think the work environment, meeting them where they are and saying, boy, they've gone through some things that we went through, different things. It's just different. It's always different. And so how can we learn from this generation? Because you have to. They have the keys to AI, to how to evolve your business, to how to reach a younger generation. I mean, if you can't figure out how to meet in the middle, it's going to be pretty disastrous. And so I feel that way about former athletes, veterans, career changers, anybody that is now on this sort of journey. I hope that they can learn something from this, and maybe it'll spark some good discussions.
Yeah, I agree too. And for whatever it's worth, the last few years of my career, I could see, because it was the pandemic, and then I was now the old regime. All right. And I am trying to bridge the gap between me and younger airmen that are 18 years old coming into the military in the environment of being in a pandemic. It was like, okay, how do I connect and still be able to be relevant?
Mhm.
All right, in this whole thing. And this is where the sleigh really was the bridge. It was like, look, I'm not young, but I could connect with you on this word. Like, this word, okay? Like, we going to find a commonality in here in some way in this word, and it worked. It was really truly, you know, something that no other leader was able to really do, because they're like, how are they talking to you? How are they like bringing this stuff to you? And I'm like, well, and it is, you have to find different ways to communicate in the world in which we are living in right now, and still be able to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard.
It's hard.
And nobody has it figured out. I mean, I think everybody's just doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
But I just think that if there's a little bit more intentionality around it, I really think that it could help the conversations, because right now I feel like nobody feels understood.
Yeah. I definitely can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard, y'all. This has been a great conversation. Like, it is hard. Hey, Bianca, I see you. It's she's on the Facebook side, because Facebook, y'all ain't trying to let me be great, okay? But I could see on my phone who's on Facebook. So she used to be one of my supervisors. So she's a former chief as well, Air Force veteran. So
thank you for your service as well.
Yes, Kate says thank you for your service. So but yeah, so this has been very interesting conversation, and I appreciate your time and really sharing with us all of the things, anywhere from leadership mindset. We didn't even get really to the wellness part, but I mean,
for another call.
Yeah, that is for another call, because you're talking about your bar routine, and I was like, what's that? Okay. But I do want to make sure that I give you, some time here to talk about anything that you haven't shared that you want to leave us with, because I got one question for you.
Oh boy. I don't really think that there's anything else that I need to, share. I mean, I certainly would be willing to help or talk to anybody that is going through these types of transitions. And I really am so fortunate to be able to be in a position to do that. So that's it, though. Nothing else. I'll take your question. I'm ready.
Okay, last question of the evening. All right. So, I am thinking about my 80th birthday. And I've only started really thinking about this after I turned 50. But I have this question for every guest that comes on the show. So, at the age of 80, usually we have a big old birthday party, and hopefully you'll have a big old birthday party. So, what will your family and friends say about you?
Oh gosh.
What would you hope that they say about you?
I would hope that they would say that I am a kind person who cares about others, who has always just tried to make people's lives better, has always tried to help where I can. And that's really it. I mean, I feel like that is the most important thing that we as humans can give back, and just always treated people with kindness. And they would probably say I'm a master networker. Because that is also true. Yeah. I do love it. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think first-time entrepreneurs, if you really love business, like we love networking, like let's do this all day, every day. But I appreciate you sharing that with us, because sometimes we get caught up in life and we're just like running at 1,000 miles per day, all day. but really thinking, being a little bit more intentional about what is it that we want our family and friends to say about us on that very special milestone of our life, and being it and living up to that. So that is one of the things that I think about all the time. Like, is this in alignment with what I want them to say? Okay. If not, I'm going to just back off and not really go down that way and just, go a different way. So, but
I love that.
think,
What is yours?
oh, wow. I really want them. No one ever asked me, Kate. So you're the very first guest, and I've had lots of guests on here who never asked me. So, you're catching me off guard, but
sorry.
No, I appreciate it. I think I would want my family and friends to say that I was a badass. That for me, I mean, it's one of those things that I have seen myself go through a lot of iterations of things. But to show up and be bold about what I am doing and not caring what anyone else is saying and being successful at it and put my mind to it and just doing it. I think that's really what I'm living up to.
Love that.
I'm trying to change the trajectory of our family's line. It's like no longer are we the underdogs. Okay. We are always looking at ways to, change the way that we see ourselves. And so if we can do that more on a consistent basis and knowing that anything is possible, it don't matter what you want to do, you can do it and you can be of it and you can do it extremely well. So I don't know. I'm just saying.
I love it. I think you're there. I feel like that's exactly what people would say.
Now, I use that terminology. My mom's going to be like, oh my gosh, she's like, this is a Sunday and everything. But you know what? I'm like, I just feel like a powerhouse right now. So, and I feel good. And I think that's another thing that I never really thought about too much more into anything else. 53, I'm still getting it. So I could let anybody take that away from me. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Kate, thank you so much for being here on the show tonight with us. And Chevy for being here with us live on the LinkedIn side. And Chief Lindsay, Bianca being on the Facebook side. We appreciate you two being here because you could have been anywhere else, but you decided, hey, you wanted to hang out a little bit with us. And for those that come back and you watch it on a different time, just go ahead and put a hashtag replay into the comments so that we know that you are here. You can also go onto the YouTube channel and find Slay to Success, and you can subscribe. And so you won't miss out on any of the episodes because I not only have this show, but I also have a Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Rise and Slay show that you can catch me talking about all the things personal branding if that's something that you're interested in learning more about. And so don't miss out because next Sunday, same time, same channel, we've got another SLAYMAZING guest that will be here. So you don't want to miss out on that. So we will see you back then. Until then, keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And thank you so much, Kate, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, y'all.